Okay, this is part 4 of the video, Jewish Racism in the Federal Court. So I was sent to replace this Jewish uncertified teacher, Ms Kovat, who was older than I was in her 40s. I was assigned to teach 5 classes and all the off-track students with social studies classes, which meant I was teaching either students who were accelerating their classes, which, as you can imagine, in a regular New York City public school wasn't many, or, as was most often the case, my classes were filled with people repeating the class. By the way, Sheepshead High School was about 75% black, less than 10% white. Anyway, the students I attempted to teach took the Global Studies Regents Test and the U.S. History and Government Regents Test at the end of the semester. And overall, in that June 1999, the Regents and RCT pass rates for both Global Studies and U.S. History was higher than it was in the year, those Regents and RCTs in the year prior, in June of 1998, and was higher than the year later, in June of 2000, after I wasn't there because I was fired. Anyway, Jewish Principal Friedman did not want Jewish Kovat to be unemployed and face the harsh realities us non-Jews have to face. And Friedman wanted to keep Kovat at the school to ensure Kovat eventually got tenure. So, Friedman assigned Kovat to teach 5 high school level math courses. Now, Kovat did not have a college degree in math or even a college major in math, but that did not stop Susan Friedman, now retired with a government pension, or the New York City Board of Education, from letting the students at Sheepshead Bay suffer by providing a Jew with a math job she was not qualified to teach. State qualified to teach, in the minds of Friedman and McCarthy. She was qualified to teach, right? Alright, so, let's see. Note, the New York City Board of Education had on file applications of certified teachers in math and social studies who wanted to teach because they needed a job. I had seen, before I was hired that year, older white, and then after I was fired, I'd seen at hiring halls, older white teachers around the time, in that time period, who were stuck being adjunct college professors teaching math because they were denied math teaching jobs in the school districts. Instead, the school districts wanted to hire uncertified black and Hispanic teachers, or hiring uncertified black and Hispanic teachers who were teaching math out of their license, city license, not state. In fact, at that time, Kovat taught math out of license. And in fact, at that time that Kovat taught math out of license, I knew a middle-aged white female who was state certified to teach math, who had her application to teach at the New York City Board of Education schools on file, and she was looking for a public city school job. Now, to give you background on the Jewish preferential hiring occurring in the Social Studies Department, run by the Jewish assistant principal Elaine, Goren, Farran, McCarthy, in 3 years before I was forced transferred via the collective bargaining agreement into Sheepshead Bay, the names of the social studies teachers present in the school when I arrived, who had been hired in the preceding 3 years, were Alex Goffman, Ms Kovat, Ricky Eisner Shapiro, Mike Cohen, Maria Goldring, Alon Rosenthal, Mike Dawes, and Webster Smith. Okay, see a pattern? Notice that the first 6 names, yes 6, are Jewish. The last 2 names, Dawes and Smith, were black. No whites who had non-Jewish sounding names were there, who had been hired in the 3 years before. The hiring of Smith and Dawes at the time was essential to remedy the past discrimination at the school, where the Social Studies Department, located in Brooklyn, had no blacks. So aside from hiring black teachers, why is it that in the 3 years prior, only Jewish last names were hired, when in New York State Jews made up only less than 9% of the New York State population? Could it be that no non-Jewish whites applied? Nix that, because in August 1998, before I was hired at Clara Barton High School, I called every New York City public school with a law program, including Sheepshead Bay High School, and faxed a copy of my cover letter and resume because I was looking for work and I had practiced law in New York State for around 9 years, 5 years of that as a criminal defense attorney in Brooklyn. At the time, I was told by Goren, Farran, McCarthy that there were no positions. Yet in August to September, at least 3 social studies teachers were hired there. Now, it should be noted that I was a suspended attorney at the time for suing my neighbor, but that didn't make a difference as to whether the school would hire me, because in 2003, Susan Friedman, or her Jewish successor principal, Risa Levy, actually hired a 57-year-old disbarred attorney. His name was Thomas H. Everett III. He taught the law-related high school courses, and he ran the high school law program. Now, Mr. Everett, son of the former mayor of West Caldwell, New Jersey, later in 2005 got charged and pled guilty to a crime of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from old ladies, and he was sent to jail. He owed over $1 million at the time of his incarceration. In 2005, before he went to jail, and when he was charged, he told Principal Levy about first about his criminal charge, and then about his conviction. But neither he nor Risa felt the need to disclose the arrest and conviction to the New York City Board of Education, even though they were required to. Now, criminal convicted and jailed disbarred attorney Everett, whose father was a Presbyterian, was fired. Last I heard, he was down in Georgia running an antique shop. Gotta wonder if he paid the over $1 million he owed. That is so cool how some people just keep bouncing back. Now, the Jewish principal, Risa Levy, well, she kept her job for another 6 years. Ain't it great the favorable treatment you get when you're Jewish at the New York City Department of Education? Now, in the interest of full disclosure, there were 2 other white, probably non-Jewish social studies teachers hired at Sheepshead Bay High School in those 3 years. But according to Jewish assistant principal Goren, Farran, McCarthy, who barely remembered them, those 2 had been force hires sent from the New York City Board of Education to the school like me. And for some reason, each were both not teaching at Sheepshead Bay High School less than a year after they started working there. Probably because they got the old warm Jewish welcome from the preferentially hired and treated Jewish teachers there. Either that, or they were forced out of the school with the threat of firing. And to further elaborate just how Jewish-biased Goren, Farran, McCarthy was, after I was fired, she got a job supervising the social studies department of the Lawrence Union Free School District on Long Island. Yep, same school district in the Jewish Judge Siebert case that I quoted before. In one amazing coincidence, I actually interviewed for a job at the Lawrence School District on Long Island after I was fired from Sheepshead Bay. And I told them all about the Jewish principal and the assistant principal at the high school. Now, the administration at Lawrence must have been so impressed. Now, they didn't hire me. Instead, they hired Goren, Farran, McCarthy. It gets better. Within 2 years of being head of the social studies department, guess who the Lawrence Union Free School District hired as social studies teachers? Ready? Ricky Eisner Shapiro and Alex Goffman from Sheepshead Bay High School, both who happened to be Jews who were interviewed for hiring by Goren, Farran, McCarthy when they were at Sheepshead Bay High School. Now, Goffman is yet another example of the lingual musical chairs played at the New York City Board of Education. When Goffman was hired as an uncertified teacher, he was hired at Sheepshead Bay as a bilingual or ESL teacher because of being from Russia. He spoke Russian. Now, in his first semester teaching, he taught all or mostly bilingual or ESL classes. But after that semester, he was teaching all English-speaking classes and teaching the high school level law classes and coaching the moot court school team. Goffman happened to have passed the New York State bar, but decided not to practice law. So, in 2000 or 2001, when Goffman left for the island and the Lawrence School District, guess who taught and ran the Sheepshead Bay School law program and coached the mock trial competition? Ready? The Jewish Robin Kovat. Yes, in the tradition of giving Jews extraordinary preferential treatment, and in the tradition of her teaching high school level math courses without a math degree, Principal Friedman thought to give another social promotion to Jewish Ms Kovat, who had no legal degree or no legal education from a law school or paralegal school. Now, if I had been at the Sheepshead Bay High School, I, having a legal education and legal experience, having never been disbarred, at least not yet, having never been convicted of a crime or served jail time, and having already coached a successful academic team, I could have ran the law program. Unfortunately for the students, I was not the right religion. So, there I am in my first days at Sheepshead Bay High School on February 4th, 1999, in a class, and a disruptive girl acts out. She's a Jewish white girl, a minority in the school, even further a minority, by piercing her body parts and hanging out with the trenchcoat mafia gothic crowd made popular in the movie about drug use called Basketball Diaries. I write a referral, a copy of which I have. Instead of speaking to the girl, the Jewish assistant principal tells me to call the girl's parents and guardian first. Okay. From a list I get the girl's home number and I call the girl's relative and discuss the matter of the disruptive girl. Next day, the Jewish white pierced goth girl comes in and asks out loud in class if I called her relative. I respond, yes, to which the girl tells me, F you. She really said the word. I paraphrased. She said, F you, Mr. Blasey, and she warns me if I call again, she will be even more impolite and uncooperative. I'm thinking how well that went. So I speak to the Jewish assistant principal of social studies thinking, I will now get school assistance. Nope, says Goren, Farran, McCarthy. I've got to continue to call the girl's relative. How many times, I ask? For any expletive, as many times as it gets the girl not to say expletives, I'm told. Now, later on in the semester, a senior who is black and on the football team is really disruptive, completely talking over me and the rest of the class who are trying to participate. I ask the student on a number of occasions to stop talking, and the student lets out a tirade of verbal abuse that is unmatched of any in my classes. I get a security guard who escorts the 19-year-old man to the social studies office. Within 3 minutes, the Jewish AP arrives at my door and with the student and knocks at my door. I open it and the AP directs the students to sit down. At that point, the AP calls me out of the class door and tells me I have no right to deny a student, the student an education, no matter what he said or called me. What is intentionally ignored by Goren, Farran, McCarthy is that by having the student in the class, every student is denied an education. During the final week of the semester, the same student came into the social studies office and called me an expletive in front of numerous teachers and the Jewish AP. No disciplinary action was taken. Just an example of the education imparted to our youth in the teen